Welcome to Hockey Night in New York, where Islanders hockey always reigns supreme. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, Hockey Night in New York is your home for all things Isles. Now, let's drop the puck and get this party started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Hockey Night in New York. Welcome to the program, everyone. It is Saturday, April 15th, 2023. Coming at you live from Florida Media right here in Rockville Center. Big show coming up for you tonight. We'll be talking playoffs. Really excited about that. Mike Morreale will be joining us from NHL.com. Joining me tonight is Mr. Stefen Rosner. My name is Sean Cuthbert. Stefen Rosner, how are you?
We got playoffs.
We got playoffs,
so I think
buddy.
Everyone should be in a good mood.
Yeah.
So, it's always fun.
What a dramatic week that we're coming from that we will get into. But before we do, I want to remind everybody that we are super proud to be presented by Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington, 217 Carlton Avenue in East Islip, and of course, UBS Arena at Belmont. Also very proud to be sponsored by Lost Farmer Brewing Company, located at 63A 2nd Street in Mineola. And very proud to be sponsored by Main Street Board Game Cafe, located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. More about them later. So yeah, Stefen, ups and downs. It started out a little grim on Monday. We did the post-game show here. And, it was a little doom and gloom. We thought that Pittsburgh was going to sweep the rest of their games. And you fast forward 24 hours from Monday night, and they're dropping a big one to the Chicago Blackhawks. The hope is back. And then we go back to UBS Arena for Game 82, and the Islanders take care of business, although it was a little shaky here and there. But they pulled out the win. They cashed their ticket to the postgame, and then they get a little help from Carolina.
Postseason.
To the postseason.
Yeah.
Did I say postgame?
You did.
I'm so excited, just so excited. To the postseason, Carolina gives them a little help. They beat Florida so that Carolina gets the right to play the New York Islanders. They win the Metro Division. So here we are. It is playoff time. How are we feeling about it?
Well, I think anyone that's nervous, you should be. The Islanders are obviously going in as underdogs, but
True.
Credit to the Islanders. They always go in as underdogs, and the
Also
back-to-back
true.
runs to the semifinals, everyone said, if they're going to lose in the first round, they get to the next round, they're going to lose. So this Islanders team understands that they're always going to be underdogs because they lack that superstar that pretty much every team in the league has, except them. But they find a way to get it done. It seems like maybe they'll go all the way. Who knows? But that's the whole point. Get to the dance and then dance. And if they could do the salsa when people are, moonwalking backwards, I don't know. I'm not a good dancer, but or know anything about dance. But yeah,
fair enough.
Sounds fair. But
sure.
I would say nobody wants to play this team.
Yeah, we've been saying that here on the show, with the hypotheticals, if they should get in, the Bostons, the Carolinas, as great as both of those teams have been, the Islanders are probably the one that they were looking forward to playing least, right? When you look at the teams at the bottom, maybe you make an argument for Florida because they had a really big surge at the end there, where they won like 6-7 in a row.
Alex Lyon.
Right, yeah, what a story
It's
he's
like the
been,
Hamburglar.
right? Yeah, it's unbelievable. But look, we're here. They get the 7 seed, and they get to go in on their own terms, beating Montreal, and they get a little lucky with Carolina win that last game, so they can hold off on Boston until the conference finals. You know what I mean? So that's nice.
Yeah, like I said, teams that finish with the best record in the league don't usually win the cup. So I wouldn't be shocked if Boston doesn't get to the cup final. But then again, you look at all these matchups, I wouldn't really be shocked with anything. That's why we love this league. Anyone can beat anyone. It's the playoffs, and I think for the Islanders, the players have talked about it. They've been playing playoff hockey, 2 months. So if any team's ready for the physical grind of a playoff series, it's probably the Islanders. Yeah,
it's true. They've had to fight tooth and nail to get into the spot they did. And, much like the wide regular season, even this stretch was kind of a microcosm of that, in the sense that you had the highs and lows, the roller coaster, the little lack of consistency. But the good thing is that they won a lot more than they did down the stretch, which is really what got them in there. And, credit to the players on the ice first and foremost, but you got to give credit to not only them, the coaching staff, and also Lou Lamoriello for putting faith in this team to get it done. Barzal goes down. He makes the deal for Horvat before that, and Engvall. He basically buys into this team. At that time, they were essentially out of a spot.
Oh, yeah.
When that was going on, he was like, listen, I'm going to put my faith in you guys. I'm going to pick these guys up, and we're going to go on a little run here. And they did. And to everybody's credit, they rallied around each other, especially when their star forward went down. And you have a team who showed some resilience, and definitely on the backbone of Ilya Sorokin. He obviously led the charge here, as he has all season. But they're in, and now the record's reset. And you got 0-0 against Carolina. They're short one of their top forwards in Svechnikov, and I think they got a shot here.
Yeah, for people that want to blame Lou for the lack of moves and not getting things done, that's a fair point. There was guys available this offseason that maybe, again, trades have to go two ways. It's not that maybe Lou, people say, Lou didn't go for someone. We have no idea what Lou does or not. But like you said, to his credit, when the team needed somebody, maybe a little late, but when the team needed somebody, he gets Horvat, he gets Engvall, Hudson Fasching over the summer in a quiet offseason where they made one move to get Romanov, who, by the way, after a tough first half, really turned into a top 4 D-man, top 3 maybe. He was huge down the stretch. I know he's hurt now and he won't play in game 1, but he made those moves and an Engvall move. I think the Horvat move saved the season, given that when Barzal and Pajot went down, he kind of wore all the hats. But you look at Engvall and that Nelson, Palmieri, Parise line, which was great once Palmieri returned against Toronto a couple months back, it went cold. It really did. You bring Engvall, you put Engvall on that line, and that line carried them offensively for a good stretch here when Horvat, went cold offensively. So, again, his moves paid off. Again, not saying that he should have made one move in the offseason, but like you said, he kept the faith in this group. He got the moves needed to get in. And Sorokin's the reason why they're here. Nelson's offense is the reason why they're playing as well. But if you could take away those moves, the Islanders are not making the playoffs.
No, I think you're right on the money with Bo Horvat. Even though his numbers went down, everybody knows it. Everybody's been talking about it. But he did a lot more on the ice that didn't show up on the score sheet. That with Matt Barzal going down, I mean, if Bo Horvat and Pajot going down, if Bo Horvat wasn't there, this team wouldn't be in the dance right now. They wouldn't be there. And he ended up taking that big center position, winning tons of faceoffs, playing the PK. He was playing power play. He was all over the ice. I know he led the team in minutes a couple of nights. He was logging like 22 minutes a night and stuff like that. So I mean, he was a huge part of the success that they had, even though he wasn't showing up on the score sheet. So hopefully now with Matt Barzal coming back, which is the big news now, which we're going to talk about right now.
Back?
That's the word. That's the word. I'm pretty sure you tweeted a little something about that.
I might have. I don't know.
Yeah. So look, let's get into that. Let's talk about the fact that Romanov's not ready yet. Maybe he will be later in the series. That's the hope, but he's not going to skate for game 1. But the big news here is Matt Barzal practiced with the team, and he has every intention of playing game 1, and that's the expectation. Yeah,
the guy missed 23 games. And again, he credits, he said, listen, they played so well in my absence. Now, the record, obviously, they did win more than they lost, but it wasn't a, beautiful. It was grind. They had to grind. Again, without Barzal, little less creativity. Clearly, the power play struggled mightily in his absence because it seems like no one else can carry the puck over the blue line, which, again, they're all NHL players, and I understand you lost your guy, but at some point, someone had to figure it out, and it didn't really happen. That's when you look at Noah Dobson, where now in the playoffs, you need Noah Dobson to be Noah Dobson. He can't be the guy that maybe took steps back in production and in the power play. Again, smarter decision-making, all that stuff. With Barzal back now, this power play is going to be huge in the postseason. Again, the numbers, like you said before, right at the start of the show, numbers don't matter anymore. The fact that power play was 3rd worst in the NHL means nothing. It's all about timely power play goals. Again, the Carolina Hurricanes finished 1st in the Metro because they're a very good team. They are very active. The defense, Brent Burns is still one of the best. He gets shots through. Slavin's probably one of the more underrated defensemen with Adam Pelech. I'd put those two in the same conversation. This Carolina team, to me, is a lot like the Islanders because you could say they have a superstar in Aho, but I still think he's very underrated. Svechnikov, obviously underrated as well. He's out. Pastretti's out. But they have a lot of guys that just do those little things like the Islanders. And that's why I think, matchup-wise, it'll be tough for sure. But I think it's a balance of you have two teams where everyone on the ice does something unique, I guess, for their team to help. It might not come up on the score sheet. And that's why Hurricanes, I guess, just do it at a more consistent rate.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, there was a 20-point difference between the teams in the standings, right? The Canes won the season series 3-1. Yep. So clearly, through the 82-game grind, they were the better team. And now they're missing a couple of their biggest forwards here. That kind of balances things out a little bit. They do have a lot of similarities. If you read the series previews that are out there now, there's a lot of talk about how they both play low scoring. They both play a heavy defensive game. The Carolina Hurricanes are very well known for how good they are in defense. I believe they're only second behind the Boston Bruins when it comes to goals against. So look, I mean, it's going to be, there's people even joking about already how much of a snooze fest it's going to be because they both play that defensive style hockey. But listen, that's what wins hockey games, especially in the playoffs. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't care how it's done as long as it ends in wins, right? So if we see 2-1, 3-1 grind out hockey, that's fine by me as long as the results are in the Islanders' favor. But there's no doubt that this is going to be a tough matchup. You just try to match the teams up against each other, and you probably give the advantage to Carolina on the forwards and on the D. Because, it's a little closer on the forwards with the guys being hurt. Like they have Sebastian Aho, I believe, is their only 70-point player. Oh, no, sorry, Nekash. Is that the right pronunciation? Yeah, Nekash. So he had 71 points this season. Aho had 67. And then after that, it's actually very similar to the Islanders in that there's a lot of, 40, 50-point guys and whatnot. But the one difference, you have Brent Burns in the back end. With
second on the team in assists. Yeah,
the guy's 61 points.
Age is just a number.
Right. No, look, he's gonna be a huge problem for the Islanders. But when you match them up together, it's gonna come down to just how. Look, it might ultimately come down to the goaltending, and I want to get into what we think the X factors are going to be for this series later on. But the goaltending is the one place I think where the Islanders have a clear advantage. Now, you can argue maybe in other spaces. Well, the Islanders have been to the grind. They've been to the conference final. They know what it takes to get there and whatnot. Sure, but Carolina has a lot of playoff experience as well. So I think this is going to be a really tight series. I really do.
I could so see this series going 7 games, and that's not just. Again, I don't think. Let's say the Islanders do get swept, hypothetically, which I don't think will happen. Like you said, I don't think it's going to be 6-1 loss. I think this is going to be every game is going to be a 1 or 2 goal game, and that's how the Islanders have to play games because they don't have maybe they'll have the offense, but at the same time, again, it's coming through when you get a turnover right in front. Mm-hmm. Good teams finish those. The Islanders, unfortunately, this year against the Canes especially, but at most teams, the Islanders maybe don't come up with that goal when they need it. So this series, first off, the Islanders are only going to have a chance if they forecheck. If they can't get on the forecheck, the Carolina Hurricanes have speed. Again, talking about Sebastian Aho. Speed. These guys know how to get up in transition. Again, we talked about it against the series with the Devils or any of these fast teams in the NHL. The Islanders' bread and butter is dumping the puck in deep, getting on the forecheck, winning battles, cycling, dirty goals in front. That's how they're going to have to play. Right. And if the Islanders come out of the gate and don't forecheck and let Carolina get to their game first, it's going to be tough because, again, the Islanders will be pinned in their own zone. And if that's the case and Barzal's line's out there, then 30, 40 seconds, they're in their own zone. They have to dump and change. The best players are not going to be on the attack. And that's why, again, you get it on the forecheck early with that fourth line, which has been so good as of late. They started the last game against Montreal. I asked Lane why he did that because it's not something he'd done really at all. Mm-hmm. And he said, this is a game we had to get off to a really good start, and we wanted the fourth line to set the tone, win the forecheck battle. And we asked Lane today, too, especially about Bolduc, who we'll get in a second, but the playoffs are physical, but it's not to the extent where it's all about hitting. It's winning board battles. All those little plays that the Islanders do so well when they're playing well is why they have success in the playoffs. But if they get away from what they do well, like any team, it's going to be a tough battle again because you don't have the offensive players that'll just create. Now you have Barzal back, which is huge. But again, the Canes' defense is so good. They know how to close space.
Yep.
Barzal is going to try to do what he can, but at the same time, he's going to have to work so well with Horvat. And he talked about it, that the chemistry, he doesn't think it's going to be an issue at all. Mm-hmm. I asked Horvat about it when we were in California, and I said, just because Barzal's not playing, is there a way for you guys to still build chemistry? And he goes, yeah, we'll talk about the games. We'll talk about the plays. But, it's different when you play on the ice. Barzal hasn't played in 23 games. I thought, if he was 100% ready to go, which, again, he's 100% now. I think he's been 100% ready to go for a while. It might have made sense to put him in that last game. Not crazy minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, just to get him on the ice and get a feel for the game. But, again, he said that the trainers wanted to wait him out, make sure he's 100%. They had faith they'd get it done. It'd be shocking if that news came out and they didn't make the playoffs, if he was ready to go.
I don't know if that news would have came out.
Fair point.
Yeah.
But, again, this series is going to come down to who wants it more, obviously. But, again, those little plays where, again, you have all these guys on this Islander team that do those small things, and that's when it matters doing that in the playoffs.
Well, we got plenty more to dissect, but we want to thank everybody for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY and your favorite podcast providers. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Mike Morreale will be joining us from NHL.com. We'll be right back.
I don't want to hear it. It's over. I can't believe they fell short again.
Yeah, but they played so well. They made it to the semifinals 2 years in a row.
The semifinals aren't the cup.
God damn it, I hate those Lightning.
They'll get another shot at it next year.
I don't even want to talk about it anymore, all right? They lost, okay? Let me just sit here and enjoy the one thing that makes me a little bit happy. This fresh, delicious, tasty, meaty, turkey-filled Blue Line Combo. I eat 3 every day to help keep me strong.
Hey, Donnie, can I have one of those?
Coming right up. Talk about a blast from the blue line.
Blue Line Deli and Bagels. Our goal is to make you a hero.
Miss the days of mixtapes and arcades? Love the taste of a bold IPA or maybe an ice-cold lager? There's a place where all of those magical things come together. Lost Farmer Brewing Company. At 63A East 2nd Street in the heart of Mineola, Lost Farmer combines a love of the 80s and a passion for quality beer to create brews that can only be described as gnarly, radical, and totally tubular. The retro vibe of the tasting bar will amp up your nostalgia while the blend of both local and exotic ingredients amp up your taste buds. Beer not your thing? Crack open a can of cider or sip a Chardonnay on the extended patio. Order up from the snack menu. You can even bring your own. If you're more of a homebody, pick up a growler to go or order online at lostfarmerbrewing.com. And for all of Long Island's hockey fans, Lost Farmer created the delicious Stable Shaker American Lager to celebrate the newly built UBS Arena at Belmont Park. Whether you're at the stable for a hockey game, concert, or a comedy show, you can find Stable Shaker by can and draft around the arena. So raise a cup to the next cup with Lost Farmer Brewery, the future of Long Island craft beer.
Thanks for giving some time to our sponsors. Ready to talk more aisles? The train rolls on right here on Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, folks. The train rolls on here at Hockey Night in New York. And join us from NHL.com right now is Mr. Mike Morreale. Mike, thank you so much for joining us tonight, man. How you doing?
What's going on, Sean, Steph? Glad to join the show, man.
Absolutely. Pleasure to have you on this Saturday night. We are very excited to be talking playoff hockey, so why don't we dive right into it? Exciting field here, a lot of very intriguing matchups. Why don't we start there? Are there any playoff matchups that you're looking at here that kind of has you a little more interested than the rest of them with a little intrigue, maybe a potential for a dark horse candidate or an upset?
This first round is pretty intriguing in general, in both conferences. Obviously, I'll be handling for NHL.com. I'll be handling Devils and Rangers series, and I think there's, as you guys know, there's a lot of clamor just for the fact too that we have the three Metro teams in the playoffs too, right, guys? It's kind of an exciting time. Playoffs in general are exciting, but to have three Metro teams since 2007 in the playoffs is going to be fun. And for me personally, doing the Rangers and the Devils series is going to take the cake because right now what the Devils have done this season, I don't think anyone expected them to be where they are right now as far as the records they set with wins in the season, points, road wins and whatnot. And the season that Jack Hughes has had, the goaltending was a question mark, but Vitek Vanacek has seemed to have answered that, although he kind of a little streaky down the stretch, but he's the man in net. And then for the Rangers, I mean, all the changes that they made at the deadline with Kane coming over, Tarasenko. So, it's going to be one of those series, I think it might go 6-7 games. Obviously, the Islanders series with Carolina is an intriguing one. The Isles get in by the skin of their teeth, last game, and they're in. So good for the Islanders and their fans. And I think, I got to be honest. I mean, I know Carolina entering, the season was a trendy pick. The Canes have that look about them, at least entering the season, that the Colorado Avalanche had with offensively and goal and on defense, but some key injuries there. The goaltending has kind of faltered down the stretch a little bit. So I think, the Canes could be ripe for the taking here, and the Islanders are just going to be a bear to withstand. This one could be, personally, I don't know if you call it an upset, but I guess you have to with the Islanders being a wild card. I think any of the wild card teams that do win a series has to be a little bit of an upset, but I just like what the Islanders have done. And then, those two series, obviously in the East, and then in the West, really intrigued guys with the Avalanche, right? Sure. How they were able to withstand the season long and now playoff absence of their captain, Gabriel Landeskog. They're going in against a Seattle Kraken team, second-year franchise team, first year in the playoffs. Got some dynamic players. Obviously, Matty Beniers is one of the front runners there for the Calder Trophy. So I'm curious how Colorado is going to, fare in their first round match with the Seattle Kraken. And then, of course, the Edmonton Oilers, right? I think everyone is still waiting for Connor McDavid to finally get into some meaningful games, particularly in a Stanley Cup final. Hey, they reached the conference final last year, came up short against the Avs. But maybe this is the year with the additions that Kenny Holland has made over there that they have what they need. Now, obviously, goaltending looks like a rookie's going to be in there, and Stuart Skinner, he's played exceptionally well down the stretch, was the rookie of the month in March. So a lot of good things to like with the Edmonton Oilers. But first, they got to, take care of business with the Los Angeles Kings, and the Kings have had a great season. So overall, guys, I mean, I missed a couple series there too, but those are the ones that are really intriguing to me in both the East and the West.
Yeah, Mike, for me, just with the Devils, what clicked in your mind this year compared to last year? I think a lot of people thought the Devils would be much better than they were a year ago, but I think people were waiting for them to fall off this year, and they never did. So what in your mind really clicked this season?
Well, you know what, Steph, personally, I think coming into the season, one of the items that needed to be addressed was the goaltending, and Tom Fitzgerald did that with the acquisition of Vitek Vanacek. Now, I don't know if you guys agree. Like, I wasn't really sure what Vitek Vanacek would bring to the Devils. Right. It was kind of a question mark his previous year with the Washington Capitals. I know he faltered a little bit there in the playoffs. He's only had 3 games of playoff experience, but he does have experience. Played fairly well, but struggled a little bit down the stretch. But this year for the Devils, that second week in the season, he really took off. And when the Devils had that long string of wins in a row, and then there was the road wins that they were doing, Vitek was a major league part of that. I think at the same time, they were getting the quality coaching that they needed out of Ruff. Ruff was not afraid to use these young players, show off their skills, and then, you kind of fill in the roster with pieces here and there. Andre Palat played a real nice role. Eric Haula in the trade for Pavel Zacha. Now, the trade fit well for both clubs. I think, obviously, Zacha, you see the numbers, guys. Zacha's done really, really well in Boston this year. And Hauler's fared really well in Jersey as well, as far as face-offs and playing that third-line role. I think Mike McLeod has come in, played a big face-off role in fourth line. They missed Miles Wood from last year. He missed almost the entire year with the injury that he sustained last year. This year, Miles Wood has come in and been a leader for that team. Obviously, Nico Hischier and Jack Hughes have just been phenomenal in what they've been able to bring. Jesper Bratt, is going to be an RFA. Obviously, the Devils would want to re-sign him after the season, but Jesper Bratt is a player that he's grown with this young talent the last few years, and I'm sure the Devils want to maintain that, that consistency, that continuity year to year right now, and particularly this season, come playoff time, Jesper Bratt's going to play a huge role for this club. So I think all those things combined just kind of clicked together. And the team was healthy this year, Steph, too. I mean, last year they went through 7 goaltenders because of health and whatever the reason may have been. So you go through 7 goalies, it's not a good sign, for success. And this year, Vitek, like I said, was the man. Blackwood played well. He's a little inconsistent. He struggled with injuries this year. But then Akira Schmid was able to come in and get the job done. And now there's kind of and I was at the practice today, their first practice after the regular season game for the playoffs. And, all 3 goaltenders were on the ice. So right now, the big question is, we know Vitek Vanacek is going to be that starter, but will it be Akira Schmid or will it be Mackenzie Blackwood backing him up? When Lindy Ruff was flat out asked that question, he says, asked about the plan for the backup goalie. He looked at us and said, well, the plan is we have 3 goaltenders right now. And that was it. Case closed, throw the hat down, throw the mic down. He's not saying anything else. And we probably won't find out anything else until Monday or Tuesday morning, whatever Lindy decides. But the Devils, no doubt, Steph, have really improved this year. I think from this point on, we're going to be seeing the Devils become that playoff type team year in and year out. Now it's just a matter if they can get over the hump and maybe, win a couple rounds, but we'll see. First of all, it's the Rangers, the Hudson River rivalry battle, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, for sure, Mike. And I have to say, it was impressive to see how the Devils put that all together, because I wasn't a believer, even in the early going in the season when they really started going on a tear, and I was just waiting for the bottom to fall out. And they finally hit a bit of a rut. I don't know, maybe it was in January, some point, towards the midpoint of the season, where they finally put a couple of losses together. And I said, this is it. I said, this is when they're, going to kind of hit reality and start falling down the standings. But to their credit, they picked it back up, and they've been a wagon pretty much ever since, and it's really impressive. I guess before we pivot to the Islanders and Kane series, I mean, is the real kind of, I don't know, X factor or difference for the Rangers Devils series? Is it just that inexperience on the Devils, the fact that the Rangers have been there, they've been to the conference finals, and you have a really young team in the Devils? Well, there are some veterans, but is that going to maybe be the big difference aside from maybe the goaltending matchup when you look at the Rangers' experience versus the Devils coming in here as a young team?
Yeah, I think you're right there, Sean. Let's face it, New Jersey is going to have to prove themselves in the playoffs. We know what's happened here in the regular season. We saw it. And despite the fact they've done all these good things, I'm sure, like Devils fans, in some ways, I'm even thinking of it like, is this bubble going to burst? I guess we'll find out game one, the opening 10 minutes of the game, the fans are going crazy back and forth. I'm sure there'll be plenty of blue shirt fans in the seats. Yeah. So, it's going to be a great atmosphere. And can the Devils withstand that? I mean, can the Devils win a 2-1 game, a 1-0 game in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Because I'm quite sure that the Rangers are capable of doing that with the experience they have. Now, the Devils have some experience on their side, too, and that was the idea when Tom Fitzgerald was thinking about the makeup of this team, when he brought over an Eric Haula with some playoff experience, when he brings over an Andre Palat, who's been lights out in the Stanley Cup playoffs in all those years with the Tampa Bay Lightning and winning those 2 cups. So there is some experience there to work with. Dougie Hamilton on the back end, John Marino coming over from the Pittsburgh Penguins with some cup experience. Playoff experience, I should say. So it is there. Now it's just a matter of, going out there, getting it done, playing the way they were playing during the regular season. But there's no doubt about it, Sean. It's, this series could come down to goaltending. Can Vanacek make the critical key saves as he did during the regular season in the Stanley Cup playoffs? Because we know Shesterkin's going to be up to the challenge. Now, is Shesterkin, beatable? Yes, he is. I mean, I need to see Igor Shesterkin, come up with some big, big time saves and maybe, saves that are going to help his team, push forward in this series as well, and maybe win a couple series before you become a believer. I know he did a lot last year and this year is too. He struggled a little bit. Maybe the Rangers relied on him a little too much, but obviously, he's an extremely strong goalie. Now, the other factor too that I keep is maybe a talking point from my end of things is the Devils don't have that Jacob Trouba type of intimidation that the Rangers have. Right. Whenever Trouba comes on the ice, the Devils have to keep their heads up. They have to be looking. Trouba has really turned himself into one of those defensemen that is just scary. He's scary good when he's out there. As a captain of the team, when you have a guy like that wearing the C that can throw a hit, that can change the momentum of a game, that's a huge difference maker. The Devils don't have that type of guy. I mean, you could look at, Brendan Smith, who's a hitter out there. Mike McLeod has thrown the fists and made some big hits. Miles Wood made when Brady Tkachuk knocked Yegor Sharangovich over the boards a couple of weeks ago in a regular season game against the Ottawa Senators, Miles Wood went right after Brady Tkachuk. So, there is that factor for the Devils where, hey, if you're going to push, we're going to push back. But I don't think they have that player where whenever he's on the ice, you're like, oh boy, I got to keep my head up. I got to watch where I'm going here. And sometimes that gets you off your game in those type of instances too. So for the Rangers and Devils, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to go 7, guys.
Yeah, that would be. I think every Ranger and
Please,
Devils fan would love to see 7 as long as.
No, I'm stoked for that series. I can't wait to watch.
And we didn't even talk about Timo Meier too. That coming there too.
Right.
That'll be fun as well. But to pivot to Islanders, Kane, you were just talking about defense. When you look at both of these defenses, I feel like they have like Pelech very underrated, and so is Slavin. But how do you think these compare when they go up against each other?
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be the interesting thing. I mean, I mean, the defense for the Islanders and what they've been able to, post this year and how they've been able to push. I think it's been, they're mobile, they're strong. They got some leaders back there for the power play, Pellick and Pollock, Aho, Mayfield. They've done the job all season long in front of, what many could consider the third, second, fourth best goalie in the NHL and Sorokin and what he's been able to bring for the Islanders this year. I think, I probably would give the edge a little bit to Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Jacob Slavin has proven himself time and time again and what he's been able to bring for Carolina, both not only as a offensive type guy, but he's one of those defensive type defensemen that really can spark a team. He sparked Carolina certainly in previous seasons in the playoffs and in the regular season and what he's been able to do. I don't think he's given enough credit. In fact, obviously Brent Burns, we all know what he's capable of bringing on the back end.
Sure.
Brady Shea coming over from the Rangers has really proven himself in that top four role for Carolina this year. And Brett Pesce has been posting the points, in the regular season and what he's been able to do in previous playoffs as well, guys. So, and you add in a Shane Gostisbehere, who's another transitional force for them. And I do think defensively, Carolina may have a little bit of an edge in this series and what they might bring. But when you look at the Islanders and you look what they have as far as forward wise, and the depth they have there, I kind of like what I see with them. Sorokin's at the top of his game. Barzal's return kind of sparks the offense, particularly on the power play. And, we'll see, but I think that defense can maybe withstand that Hurricanes relentlessness, and that offensive zone pressure that we saw last year when the Hurricanes, played the Boston Bruins so well in the first round of the playoffs. So, I picked the Islanders to win the series, guys. I do think, the loss of some of those forwards for the Hurricanes is going to hurt them offensively. And I just didn't like their play that well down the stretch here. Now, who knows what was going on, behind the scenes, if players, were maybe getting rested or not maybe going full bore. You just don't know. But the goaltending to me, was just mediocre at best. And if the goaltending is mediocre and you're going up against a player like Sorokin at the other end, to me, it's a, no-win situation there because Sorokin's going to be the guy that's going to get the better of you. So I like offensively. I'd like to see more offense from the Islanders down the, we didn't really see that push down the stretch. I'd like to see maybe a little more from Bo Horvat now that Barzal might be, you would expect him to be back on that line there with Anders Lee. So, it's defensively though, guys. And to get back to your question, I just feel Carolina might have the edge. But then again, I like the Islanders' offense and what they bring more than what Carolina's offense might bring. So it's going to be an interesting give and take.
Yeah, Mike, I got to agree with you on the defensive end, especially without knowing when a guy like Romanov is going to come back for the Islanders, because he's a guy who could probably really stabilize them back there. And they're putting a lot of faith in a lot of young guys. Half of their defense, you got young guys in Aho, Dobson, and now Samuel Bolduc stepping in there, who's already shown to have some questionable decisions, a little shakiness there, some rookie mistakes. So I think that's going to be maybe one of the biggest things the Islanders are going to have to battle through is just, basically, dealing with this younger defense and hoping that they can, basically play some solid D there and be a little less mistake prone. But you bring up a really interesting point with Trouba on the Rangers, and I kind of want to bring that over to this series. So if you look at I know the fourth line isn't going to be the first thing everybody looks at in a playoff series, but you look at Carolina and you got Stasny and Puljujarvi there. That's their fourth line essentially, right? And then you look at the Islanders and that's a very clear, physical, brutalizing fourth line in Matt Martin, Casey Cizikas, and Cal Clutterbuck. Now, is that something that maybe people are overlooking a little bit, where that's where the Islanders could have a physical edge, much like you talked about in the Rangers-Devils series in that Trouba situation, where the fourth line is going to keep the guys on the Canes kind of keeping their heads on a swivel, making sure they're not getting clocked, especially on the forecheck, right?
Absolutely. I mean, when Matt Martin's on the ice, and obviously Clutterbuck year in, year out is at the top of the hit list in the NHL, Zizekic is strong, powerful centerman. But Matt Martin, when he's on the ice, he's another one of those Tom Wilson type guys, right? You got to keep your head on a swivel. You got to know where he is at all times. Or you're going to get popped. And if you're in the corner trying to dig away at the puck and you see Matt Martin coming up beside you, you're going to be paying attention to that. Maybe lose sight of or focus of what you're doing. And in the case of the Hurricanes, now that line too, I got to be honest with you, Sean. Like I'd be happy. Like that fourth line for the Islanders. I mean, they can put that against the second, third, fourth line of the Canes. I mean, it's that productive, and we'll probably see that too. Yeah. Whether it be the start of the game to get the team into it, to get the guys going, middle of the game when you need some energy, some enthusiasm, get that line out there. So yeah, I totally agree with you that line will be something the Hurricanes will have to be prepared for. I'm sure they're not being overlooked though. When you have a guy like Rod Brindamore as a coach,
right?
He's pouring over the video, seeing what, and he's probably, when they're home, they're probably going to want to get some line matchups against that line to make certain that no one's going to get popped, that they'll be able to play that relentless style that they're accustomed to playing with that great forecheck that Carolina usually has. But that line is tremendous. And once they get into the zone, it's very difficult to knock the puck or get the puck away from any of those guys and what they're doing. And hey, they can score a few goals too, in addition to maybe making some big hits to change the momentum of a game. So absolutely, I agree with you.
Given Carolina, how good they've been for the last couple of years, really, do you think there's more pressure on them going into this playoff? Again, they haven't gotten to the Cup. And Rob Brindamore has a great team. I don't think they did enough at the deadline. I don't think that anyone would have thought about the injury to Svechnikov. But again, do you think the Canes have a lot more to prove?
Yeah, that's a good question, Seth. I didn't really think about that. But yeah, I guess the only thing we can say is that, you give them a pass because of the injuries. Svechnikov's not going to be there. They don't have their, full offensive, team. They got good balance. They got tons of playoff experience. They got, as we mentioned, the star D-men that are there. The trade deadline pickup of Gostisbehere I thought was great. A little depth pickup there. Obviously coached by one of the best in Brindamore. Could the Islanders shock the hockey world and eke out, that blue collar type of effort, that low scoring victory over Carolina? Yeah. I mean, and as I mentioned earlier, Sorokin's that kind of elite goalie. You can flat out steal games for you, if he's at his peak. The Hurricanes are still going to be, hard pressed to get many pucks by him, but it's just, a Brindamore coach team. And I've seen this in the past. I've covered the team in the playoffs in the past. They're just very difficult, to, generate any type of activity in their zone through the neutral zone. So I expect these games to be, these are going to be low scoring. I don't know if you guys agree. These are going to be low scoring games. I don't anticipate like 4-3 type of games. These are going to be 2-1, 1-0 type of efforts. I think for the most part. Now watch, they'll go out and it'll be 7-6 in game one. But yeah, that's how both these teams are kind of what's ingrained into their styles and what they want to bring to the table. And one other player I forgot to mention, two guys, and I don't know, you probably would have brought him up anyway, but I really like what Zach Parise has done for the Islanders this year. Who would have thought? I mean, at his age and what he's been through, no one really thought of Zach. He was like kind of not even secondary scoring, but on the backboard. Hey, if you get something from Zach Parise, it's icing on the cake. But Zach has really played well this year. The two-way game, everything that he brings that you remember about a Zach Parise type player, team, offense, coming back, getting the job done in his own end. Zach Parise has done that this year. So that's just as a little sign. It just came into my head. But yeah, I think Carolina, there is some sense of pressure here. They want to get this done. They know, I don't know if the window is closing, but hey, they were the number one team in the Metro Division this year. Right. They're getting a wild card team. You would anticipate that this is what they would want to have happen, or a team that they'd want to play in the first round. But it's not an easy matchup. And as I said, I have the Islanders just because of the reasons I mentioned. But there could be some pressure on Carolina. I don't think too much though, just because of the guy they have behind the bench, working the bench, and Rod Brindamore.
Well, Mike, outstanding stuff. You gave us your Isles Canes prediction. So do you have a Stanley Cup final for us and a winner?
Yeah, we actually have all those posted on NHL.com right now, and just to keep you from, so you won't have to go over there. I can go over the picks right. And so the first round, I have the Bruins over the Panthers. I've got the Lightning over the Maple Leafs. Oof. I've got the Isles. I got the Devils, and then in the West, I've got Dallas over Minnesota, Colorado over Seattle. I got the Jets upsetting the Vegas Golden Knights just because Connor Hellebuck to me is lights out. And I have the Oilers beating the Kings. And then the Stanley Cup final, I have the Bruins over the Avalanche, guys. I do think, despite all the what's gone on in Colorado this year, no Nazem Kadri as a key cog, second or third line center, Gabriel Landeskog out all year. I think Alexander Georgiev can get it done in goal for them. And that Conn Smythe Trophy winner, I think, let's go with Pasta. For the Bruins. So there you go, guys.
So it's the Bruins Cup to lose after a record-setting regular season.
There you go.
Well, Mike,
walk it up.
Outstanding stuff, man. Really appreciate all your time tonight, and I hope you have a great rest of your night, man. Enjoy the playoffs.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Steph. Have a great playoff, guys.
Thanks a lot. Take care. All right, guys. That was Mike Morreale from NHL.com. You can follow him on the Twitter at Mike, Morreale, NHL, for all his great content. He will be covering the Rangers and the Devils, like you said on the show. So great stuff, bud. What do you think?
Boston getting swept in the first round. No, I'm kidding. I mean, again, you want to pick Boston, right? I think everyone does. Historical season, what Pasta's done, what Allmark's done. It's like too good. I feel like it's too good to be true.
I'm not buying in.
I could see it. I could see it happening for sure. Again, there's no reason it shouldn't happen. It's Boston. They're stacked on every side of the puck and in goal.
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around them doing it.
It's the whole President's Trophy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, look, I know this is a different year because they literally just kicked the crap out of the entire league.
They have 19 regulation losses, whatever.
I think it was like 12. It was ridiculous. Whatever it was, but they barely lost. They won the President's Trophy back in January or whatever it was.
December.
I mean, it was it was a joke, but like it really is a new season. And all the credit in the world to that team and what they've done. I mean, Montgomery coming in as a first year coach with the team, not first year in the league, but with the Boston Bruins. And sure, I mean, and also it's just how everybody wrote them off going into the season. I mean, you had a lot of non-believers going into the...
You had made injuries in the offseason. You didn't know when people were going to come back. You have Krejci back, which I think has been a real good thing. You have probably the best captain, I could say, in the league, just in the way he carries himself. There's never anything said bad about him. He's a Selke winner usually. I mean, this guy, and playoff experience. Mm-hmm. And you have Brad Marchand, who everyone hates, except if you're a Bruins fan or you're a Bruin player.
Right.
And he just knows, I mean, he's so skilled. And again, they're a good team. They're where they are for a reason. I think, too, is everyone wants to say, we could talk about Ullmark and Sorokin, who's the best goalie in the league, Vezina. And while I understand everyone's saying, well, Sorokin's on a much worse team, look at Ullmark's numbers, the advanced stats, the goals saved above expected, those. Ullmark is still bailing his team out. It's not like it's not like a Robin Leonard situation on the Islanders where the Islanders locked down defensively so well that you need an average goalie look like a superstar. But Ullmark has still had to make ridiculous saves and stand on his head. Again, it helps. The shots aren't coming all the way from the slot every second, but he's been outstanding, and this was a season going in where, Ullmark was all right in his first year in Boston last year, but it's all right, him and Swayman are going to balance out. And Swayman's been good, sure, but I mean, what Ullmark's done has been remarkable, and he's been a big reason why they were so good. It's not like he was a benefit of how good they were. He's been a major part of it.
No, they've been a full package, top to bottom, and yeah, of course they're the favorites. And look, but again, I don't know if they're going to get to the end and win it all. I think Florida's going to give them a series. I'm not saying I think Florida's going to win the series, but I don't think it's going to be a walkover. I think you're going to see more of the Florida Panthers team everybody expected before the season started than the one we got for the duration of the season. And again, they showed signs of that towards the end there. And they have a lot of firepower. And, we'll see how, if they start the kid in net line, if how he does, this is going to be his first playoff experience. So we'll see. That's obviously something that the Bruins might be able to take advantage of.
And with Tkachuk, I just want to add, this is why they made this trade. This is again, the regular season did not go the way they wanted to, but they needed more grit. They let Huberdeau, who is their all-time leader in points, go because they needed someone like Tkachuk that could light a fire in any given moment, and he's done that. He's had a great year. But this is why you made that deal, for him to do stuff like that in the playoffs. Because if they're going to win a series, he's going to have to probably be their best player besides Barkov, who's always, solid. He's, again, another, like Aho, one of those underrated guys that power play, penalty kills, scores goals, sick passer.
Yeah.
I mean, again, these are the guys that Florida needs to wake up in the playoffs.
For sure, but we still got a lot of Islanders to talk about. But before we get to that, I want to talk about Suter's Sweet Treats. That's right, Suter's Sweet Treats. So just in time for the playoffs, nice little care package here from the great women over at Suter's Sweet Treats. Meg and Michelle, sisters out of Robertson County, Tennessee, sent us this excellent care package with all these fantastic cookies. They're delicious. They look great. They do custom cookies, right? And they'll ship them to you. You check them out on Instagram at Suter's Sweet Treats. That's SUTERS. Sweet Treats. Check them out, but they do great work. We really appreciate this little care package here in time for the playoffs, and they're effing delicious. Here we go, huh?
Yeah, let's do it.
Delicious. So check them out on Instagram. Just want to send them a big thanks because that's fantastic, and this is the first time I've spoken with my mouth full on the show.
Can you chew with your mouth closed as I'm talking with my mouth
Not
open?
really. This wasn't scripted, so we're just going with it. But Meg, Michelle, huge thanks. Really appreciate it. That's awesome stuff. So definitely check them out on Instagram. And of course, before we go to our next break, I want to send a big shout out to Main Street Board Game Cafe in Huntington Village on Long Island's North Shore. Games for sale and for open play, food and drink, beer and wine, fun and friends. Bring the magic of phones down, eyes up, tabletop board games to your family. Our staff will help you find the right game for you. From old favorites to the hottest new releases, we have everything from strategic to easy party games. Get off your screens and unplug your game for a night your family will remember. Looking for meetups to join? Our Magic the Gathering, Dungeons & Dragons, or Game Night Live communities are welcoming for all. We also do parties and corporate events located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. Go to mainstboardgamecafe.com for more information. Main Street Board Game Cafe. Find your crowd. Unplug your game. And with that, we're going to take one more break. Then we're going to hop back on the Islander train, talk about this little series. We'll get into the hero. We'll get into questions brewing. The train rolls on. We'll be right back.
New York Islanders fans, Sunday night is hockey night in New York. Whether you were raised at the barn in Uniondale or born in the stable at Belmont, tune in to Hockey Night in New York. Catch us live from Floored Media in Rockville Center, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, as we cover all things Islanders at twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY. All episodes are also available on YouTube and all your favorite podcast providers. And for all you social butterflies, you can follow at HockeyNightNY on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for all the latest updates. Hockey Night in New York. The best night of the week for any Islanders fan. Hey there, welcome back. We missed you too. Now kick up your feet and settle back in to Hockey Night in New York.
That's right, folks. Welcome back to the program here at Hockey Night New York. I want to thank you all for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY and your favorite podcast providers. So, Stefen, let's get back to Isles Canes here because that's what we're all we're here for, right? So, listen, we talked a little bit about the goaltending. We talked a little about defense. Let's focus on the defense for a second. What we talked about with Mike. So, if you're an Islander, a member of the Islander organization, an Islander fan, an Islander supporter, and you're looking at this D with those young guys that I mentioned, I mean, how nervous are you putting that up against, obviously, a Carolina Hurricanes offense that's lacking a couple of guys here, but is this going to play a major role in the fate of the Islanders in this series?
Oh, huge. Again, no matter how good Sorokin's been, you need help.
Yeah.
And we talked about Bolduc, but we'll get into that in a second. He's played 17 games at the NHL level. His first stint up, when he relieved Dobson of an injury, he looked fantastic. Poised, quick decision-making, winning board battles. He's 6'5", maybe not 6'5", 6'4", 200 and something pounds. Guy could lead the body, win battles. But his second stint up hasn't been as smooth. Last game, he didn't play a shift in the third period.
Yeah, we all know why. Yeah.
Again, a little too lackadaisical. We talked to him today about it. He thought he had more time. He said he should have looked over his shoulder again. We asked Lane about how do you have a conversation with a young guy to make sure he understands? And he gave a Lane answer about,
of course.
He didn't really give us much, but more you talk to him, you go over the video. It is what it is. But again, that's a rookie making rookie mistakes, but that could be the difference between winning a game and winning a series. It really could. One mistake in overtime or early on. And that's the concern because as much as there's veteran D-men in the lineup, Aho has looked better than he's ever looked this year, but at times he makes those mistakes. He gets bodied off the puck, which will be the biggest thing in this series is in the corners, is he can be able to stay on his feet and box out. Dobson defensively maybe is taking strides in the wrong direction this year. And they, again, with Romanov out, especially with how mobile Carolina's D is, Dobson has the ability to do that as well. We just haven't seen it enough.
Right.
And again, having a guy like Bolduc, again, who's strong defensively, does Dobson have the trust to jump in on the play? That's the battle I think that Dobson mentally has to make. Because with Romanov, once Romanov figured it out, and I know he wasn't playing with Dobson down the stretch, but once Romanov started to figure it out, he was staying back, Dobson was going up before they were separated. That had that mindset. But now you had Aho with him at times, where those are both guys that are going to be offensive. And then Bolduc, again, as strong as he is defensively, he could jump on the play. He gets shots off. So it's that balance of chemistry, just, hey, I'm going to jump up. Because if the Islanders get caught, again, the Canes have the speed. And that'll be the biggest thing. I think I could see Lane shortening his D bench. If he sees Bolduc struggling off the bat, you run five. You have no choice at this point.
This is my biggest concern for the Islanders in this series. It's the defense.
Yep.
And it's funny, over the last few years, you never think you're going to say that, but that really is what it comes down to for me. Now, look, we all know about the lack of scoring on both sides here, so it's going to come down to who can get through the other team's defense best, and then the goaltender, right?
Yeah.
And so the Canes have the advantage on the defensive side. The Islanders have the advantage on the goaltending. It's really going to be which one's going to hold up the other best, I think, is what it's going to come down to.
And that's when I said who wants it more, not into the aspect, of course, both teams want to win this series, but again, it's coming down to those little board battles. If you're fighting in the corner, the who wants it more comes down to there, because that leads to offensive chances or turnovers, things like that. That's what it's going to come down to, is the forecheck of both sides. And also, the Islanders have been practicing it a lot. Boxing out is going to be huge.
It's going to be that, and it's also just going to be mental fortitude. It's going to be just knowing where you're supposed to be at the right time, having your head in a swivel, making sure you're covering guys in front of the net, in the slot, wherever it is, because that's where you saw some of these guys getting caught over the course of the season. Just missing assignments, leaving guys wide open. Now, Sorokin did his best to make a lot of those saves when he did, but he's not going to stop them all, and he hasn't. And that's what I'm concerned about, is the Bolducs, the Ahos. And unfortunately, you look at it, and there's 3 veterans and 3, young guys, rookie-ish guys, right? And Aho, Bolduc, and Dobson. And then you have Pelech, Pulock, and Mayfield. But Mayfield's had a little bit of a rough go of it this season, too. And whether it's maybe not so much coverage, but turnovers, he's had a rough time.
Penalties.
Penalties, icings, unnecessary icings. Well, he's been doing that for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of his thing.
Yeah, but even just when you talk about the forechecks, when he's getting pressured down in the corner, he has a tendency to rush the puck up the boards, and he's not looking to see who's there waiting for the puck, and it's ended up in a lot of turnovers.
And that's what Bolduc the last couple of games too, throwing pucks. See, again, I'm a goalie. You were a forward or a defenseman?
Both, but I'm a defenseman.
Okay,
now.
we all watch hockey, but I mean, as a goalie, even though I didn't play out or
Sure.
I was always told you never look across the crease unless, and you see it at the NHL level only when it's clear that you're breaking out on that side.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pass across, no one's there.
Right.
But in pressure situations, and that's what gets me nervous with Bolduc, is over the last couple of games he's tried to break out through the slot. And maybe there's a forward there. I know the goal, was it against, I don't know what game it was, but Bolduc or somebody tried to go up the ice to Nelson in the low slot, and the pass missed. And it went to the boards, Dobson turned it over, and the team scored. But it was just that first look. Again, I'm not an NHL player. I probably don't know what I'm saying. But, again.
Right. It's easy for us to say it watching from our couches and from the press box. Yes.
Obviously, Bolduc saw that Nelson was there to break out. And he thought, okay, I could get it right to him in the low slot, and he could do it, and the pass just wasn't there. But again, against Carolina, against these really good teams, they will burn you. Montreal, by the way, the Islanders did win that game, and it was close. But if Montreal had any type of finishing ability, that game is over. Over in like the first period. They missed
had
so many wide open
chances. 100%. Like, Nelson had a couple goals, which is great. Fashing had a goal. All that's good stuff. But Sorokin once again bailed this team out.
Yeah.
I mean, and there were just some misses on the post going up over the net up from the Habs. But I mean, it's kind of been a common theme where these guys have left Sorokin out to dry, and they're kind of always asking him to cover up for their mistakes. And we're probably going to see more of that in this series. It's just a matter of how much. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest differences here, is just how simple can the defense keep it, right? Where they're not, making silly decisions under pressure, and I think that's what it's going to come down to. If the Canes get in on that forecheck and they're really forcing the defense to, make mistakes, then that's going to be a huge difference in the series. But maybe Sorokin bails them out, and maybe on the other end, if the Islanders can get their forecheck going and they can get past the Canes defense, then they're not facing a Sorokin-level goalie in Anderson, and maybe that ends up being the difference over there. So I think this is what it's going to come down to.
And you make a good point. You're talking about defense, but we're not just talking about the defenders, right? The forwards getting back and making sure they don't make mistakes, leaving guys the third guy high, things like that. That was one of the biggest issues all year is when the defense was struggling. It wasn't just the defensemen. It was the forwards not being in the right spot or the forwards leaving the zone too quickly. And when that happens, that's where there's breakdowns and odd man rushes like quickly in the neutral zone. That's what the Islanders have to worry about is make the first play before you make the second play. That's an individual level and a team because when the Islanders were playing well, their structured breakout was perfect. Defense gets it up to the guy on the boards, board guy dumps it to the guy in transition, and off they go. And that's when they get puck. You can't forecheck if you don't get the puck out of your zone. So I think, again, I just want to touch on Matt Martin quickly because we talked about the fourth line. I don't think people really understand how good of a season Martin had. I have some numbers. First off, he played in 81 games. He missed one game because of the birth of his daughter, second daughter.
That's a great point to make because we always talk about how unhealthy that line is.
Yeah, and Clutterbuck went through, and we talked to him today, and he was just grateful that the team got them in so he gets a chance. Again, an older player dealing with injuries, but Martin's hit a career high in points. 12 assists was a career high. 7 goals tied a career high.
Okay.
He had 295 hits. That was the most since the 2016-17 season when he had 300. He had 43 blocks, the most since his rookie year.
Okay.
Again, this is a guy, also too, when they broke up, when Clutterbuck got hurt and they moved Cizikas to the wing, Matt Martin was playing with the likes of Ross Johnston, Atu Ratu, Simon Holmstrom, Cole Barzal. You're talking about guys where Lambert, out of necessity, knew that he could put anyone with Matt Martin because Martin played, he called it a simple game north-south. And Martin played, he was terrific this year. Again, this is a guy where you thought his career was going down. He wasn't healthy.
Been hearing it every year from fans for like the last 2-3 years.
But you look at the numbers, and he's bounced back. Yeah. And he's been great again. This fourth line has really clicked since Clutterbuck coming back, obviously, but Matt Martin has produced the offense. He's made some key plays. Yes, he's not as fast as he once was. Maybe he's not as physical on a night-to-night basis, but he's going to be so key to this player front. I know fans have been nervous with the lines that we've been tweeting out. Matt Martin yesterday didn't take line rushes. Bailey did. Martin didn't play today, skate today. So everyone could relax. I asked Lane yesterday, and we was asked today. Matt Martin is playing game one. He's playing. Again, guy, I just told you, 295 hits, the most in, I can't do math. 2016-17 was a long time ago. This guy had a grind of a season, and I think, again, the fourth line, the forecheck, if the Islanders cannot get to their forecheck, especially early in the series, the series is over.
Look, we've said it plenty of times in the show that the playoffs is the time of year where your bottom six shines, like really shines.
Everyone that scores those game-winning goals in the playoff series,
right?
Are those
like
guys.
This is when we're gonna see the Palmieris. Sorry, not Palmieri. The Pageaus, the Fashings, the Martins, the Cizikases, like they're going to be the guys that are going to be shining bright and scoring some big goals if there's big goals to be had for the New York Islanders. Not to say that the top half isn't going to do their thing. They will, but when you have these tight scoring games in the playoffs like you usually have, those are the guys you're usually looking at for the heroics that are making the big plays, the big forecheck, whatever it is, and leading to a grindy little goal, puck off a shin, or a little rebound goal, whatever it is, lunch pail goal. I mean, this Islanders fourth line, as aged as it is, they're going to bring it, and they're going to be a big factor in the series.
And I think people also not understanding, yes, Barzal is going to help offensively, and even defensively, too. When he was there, it was fine defensively. Is now the other team's coach, Brendan Moore in this case, and the defenseman, it's one thing to guard Horvat. Maybe you put your second D pair on Horvat when there was no Barzal, right? Because as good as Lee is, you know what Lee's going to bring. You can't know what Barzal is going to do. These third-line guys and fourth-line guys, maybe we're going up against the top two pairings. But now you got to worry about Barzal's line with Horvat and Nelson's line, which was unstoppable. Those third line and fourth line are not going against the shutdown D pairs. Well, maybe they were if Barzal wasn't playing.
Sure.
So that makes more ice for them, probably. Again, this is not a team that allows ice, but Pageau might get more chances. Fashing, Cizikas, they're going to get more chances than I think they would have gotten if Barzal wasn't back. And that's when you have to capitalize, and that's when the Islanders have struggled. But they might get those extra 1 or 2 shots a game, and that might be the difference maker.
You never know, but we got to blitz through some more of the show because, wow, we are already up against 9 o'clock. So we're going to forego what's on tap because you all know who the Islanders are playing. They're playing the Carolina Hurricanes for at least the next 4 games. So we'll worry about what's on tap another time. So, Jay, how we doing, bud? Going to go on a little Hero of the Week. How you doing over there?
I'm surviving.
Hey, you're here.
I'm here.
Yeah, no Ed tonight, so Jay's filling in.
I'm present. Accounted for.
Present.
Yeah.
Present.
Yeah,
all right, man. Let's go into some Hero.
All right, Hero of the Week coming up, sir.
That's right, folks. When you hear this song, that means it's time for the Hero of the Week, brought to you by the Blue Line Deli and Bagels Half Price Hero, which this week is the White Whale, featuring chicken cutlet, gravy, onion rings, bacon, fresh mozzarella on a toasted garlic hero. Step on in to Blue Line Deli and Bagels, Huntington location, mention Hockey Night New York, and get half off the White Whale. So, with that, Mr. Stefen Rosner, who's your Hero of the Week?
Oh, it's the Chicago Blackhawks. You got to give them credit. I mean, they're not. Islanders aren't probably sitting here if Penguins handle that one, and you got to credit the goaltending. I mean, Penguins are all over them. But the actual Hero of the Week for me is Hudson Fasching, not because he scored his 10th of the season, which obviously
goals.
He came into this year with only 1 goal ever in the NHL, and his story is just amazing. But in that Montreal game, you know, the Islanders take a 1-0 lead, right? And it's 1-1. And you're looking at it and going, okay, the Islanders played a really good first half of the period. Once Nelson scored, they kind of said, that's good. We got our goal.
Right, we did it. We made it.
And then Montreal scores. And I think again, you don't know how the game's going to go, but Fasching crashing the net to get a dirty goal with under 30 seconds to play. Yes, it wasn't the game winner. The Canes eventually made it 2-2. But to go into the second period with a lead, I think was so critical. Again, I know that it wasn't the game winner, but again,
they might have been shaking in their boots, gripping the sticks tight. Sure.
So I think for me, he's the Hero of the Week just because of how critical that goal probably is. Looking back, again, hindsight's 20/20. You never know what would have happened in the second, but yeah, that goal I think was huge for their confidence, even though they blew that and they eventually won, though.
No, it's still a good call, and we've been really high on Hudson Fasching ever since he came up and played the way he's played. So, hat tip to him and good pick by you. But I'm going in another direction, and that is Mr. Brock Nelson. The guy has been an MVP for this team all season long, and he gets the opening goal against Montreal. He gets the eventual game winner. And he's been clutch for a long time for this team, and it feels like he found a way to be even more clutch this season, you know, especially with Barzal going down and him kind of carrying the offense on his back, you know, for a good majority of the season. You could even make an argument for last season too, and he's just been such a stellar player for this team and really kind of being, you know, you talk about like a 1A, 1B center here, you know, for the New York Islanders where, yeah, typically whatever line Barzal's line is the first line, but the Brock Nelson line has just been tremendous, and that's really whoever's been, you know, flanking him. And obviously most recently you have Palmieri and Pierre Engvall, which has been great so far, and hopefully that carries into the postseason. But Brock Nelson's been outstanding for the Islanders, and he had a huge game and another clutch performance.
Yeah, I mean, Brock Nelson, we talk about just the confidence. He has 32 more shots this year than he's ever had. 222 is a career high. I don't think he had over 200 ever.
Look at that.
And his speed has been on display too. He's flying out there. I don't know what's changed with that. Again, he's past 30. He's not in his prime, and he's in his prime right now. Clearly, back-to-back 35+ seasons of goals. But he's just, I think, this confidence, especially with what Trotz did with him, obviously helped. He's just really believed in himself right now. And I do believe because Trotz came in 2018 that maybe he's not a young in his prime guy, but let's say his career started when Trotz got here. Technically speaking, year-wise, he's in his prime right now.
It certainly hit the next level.
Yeah.
You know, whatever happened, whatever mojo he found playing for Barry Trotz, whatever belief Barry Trotz put in him, because I think that's really when he started, you know, getting, you know, bigger responsibilities and getting put in, tougher situations, and he embraced it, and he's like you said, he's been cool as a cucumber ever since. He's been a leader for this team ever since. So hats off to him, and he's obviously going to be a big factor in this series against the Canes. And that will be your Heroes of the Week. So remember, stop into the Blue Line Deli and Bagels Huntington location, mention Hockey Night New York, for half off the White Whale. And with that, why don't we go into questions, Bruin? Please.
Come on, man.
It's time for Questions Brewing, brought to you by Lost Farmer Brewing Company.
That's right, folks. It's time for Questions Brewing. Jay, how's it going, bud? You handling everything back there? I know you don't got Ed. You're doing it all yourself tonight.
It's actually pretty nice and quiet back here.
Oh, wow. So you don't miss him. Oh, it's going to be disappointed to hear that.
No, I got more space. It's great. Got my desk back. Wherever you are, Ed, stay there.
Wow.
Yeah, let's go.
Wow. All right. Very nice.
Let's do it.
So what do you got for us, bud?
We got like 6 or 7 questions.
Okay.
First one is from Mike 4652.
What's up, Mike?
I'm going to slaughter all these names, by the way.
Do your best.
All right.
It's reading comprehension,
Yeah,
but, do your best.
Let's see. With recent news about the Brincat not wanting to resign in OTT, anyway, the Isles could even consider bringing him back in as a scoring winger we still need.
Mike doesn't even care about the playoffs. He wants to know what they're going to do
Yeah,
in
what's
the
up with that,
offseason
Mike?
already.
It's a good question.
No, it is, because it raised an eyebrow for me, too. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I mean, this is a guy who's ultra talented. He's got speed. We saw it with Chicago. We've seen it with Ottawa. I think, sure, if you could afford it and make the move there.
Right.
But the Islanders have so much they have to deal with first about deciding who they want to keep that's fit. Again, we look at Pierre Engvall is going to want to get paid. Nothing crazy, but...
Well, I don't know if Engvall is a guy that comes back if you're bringing it to Brinket.
No,
honestly.
for sure. And I think, obviously, if you're comparing, but just because a guy's talented doesn't mean he's going to work. You know Engvall worked.
Yeah.
That's where it comes down to. But, I mean, listen, Lou's got to make decisions this offseason, but at the same time, they need to add more speed, especially to have I think their biggest thing is having
speed,
better regular
youth.
seasons. And, again, as much as this defensive style worked, they've gotten in. The regular season and the playoffs, we've talked about, are such different games. Speed and skill dominates the regular season. That's why the Boston Bruins, as good as they are defensively, speed and skill. Avalanche, speed and skill. Pretty much any team that is Toronto, speed and skill.
Yeah.
That's what it takes to dominate a regular season. You still need that veteran defensive play and all that kind of stuff. But DeBrincat's a great player. I know he doesn't want to be long-term in Ottawa. So, yeah, sure, why not? But I think the focus is on the playoffs.
Yeah. Listen, I mean,
Let's see what
we
happens.
got plenty of time to talk about that. I think it's fair to bring up because, look, that's a name that's going to raise an eyebrow and you're going to want to be talking about. I mean, look, you're going to need time to think about who they're going to give up, what they're going to give up, what kind of cap space they need to, clear, and also, who they're not going to bring back to make that space. So I love the thought. Yeah, if you can make room for DeBrincat, absolutely do it.
Sure.
There's going to be 30 other teams that are going to be feeling the same way. But yeah, I mean, that's a name you keep an eye on now that it looks like he's not going to stick with the Senators. Jay.
All right, let's go. CGS asks, how many games do you think it will take for Barzal to become effective in top game speed-ready form since he hasn't played a game in a few months?
1, and I'll tell you why. Adrenaline. This guy has been... I saw him skate. What did I say? I saw him skate earlier in the week with Romanov in the morning before everyone else. This guy was flying and celebrating empty net goals. He's so eager to get out there. I think, again, other players too, especially with Barzal, just because his game is such speed and skill and pivoting and he had a bad leg or whatever it was. I think he's not going to feel any of that. Maybe later on in the series, you might see him being a little sluggish just when that adrenaline wears off or the physical. I mean, he hasn't been hit in a long time. But I think he has been waiting. He said it was so annoying and sad just waiting and watching. It's painful that I think he's going to come out flying because that's all his mind's thinking about is, first off, they didn't get playoffs last year, which a lot of these players talk about that, we missed out on it last year. And this is a group. I think Barzal is going to have no issues. He's well rested too. There's kind of no excuse for him to not be flying. But again, he'll have to feel it out as the series goes on. People are going to start hitting him much more. It's going to be grueling. That's every player though. But I think, adrenaline's a powerful thing, especially for hockey players. We see them get hurt and just doesn't matter. Broken legs, broken ankles, they're playing through everything.
No, I love the enthusiasm there, and I'm sure he's going to get going from the get-go. It's just a matter of, like Lambert said.
Cut that.
The timing, he might just be a little off with the timing.
That might be one thing. I don't think lame. Timing might be one thing with just connecting on passes, but I don't think the energy level or the speed is going to lack at all.
For sure. All right, what do you got next, Jack?
All right, let's go. Tradier does Lambert.
Smile fault. Yeah,
does he win Coach of the Year? Kidding. But he should get some credit for getting the Islanders in the playoffs without Barzal and Palek for long stretches, or do Pitt, Florida, and Buffalo just suck that much?
I think it's twofold. I think Pitt definitely sucks that much. Buffalo was an interesting one because I don't think people expect them to take that next step like the Devils, but they were still a little bit away. I think they they overachieved a bit of how close it was to making the playoffs. Again, you had a young goalie come in at the end that really, really kept them alive for a little bit, but they were alive because Pittsburgh, the Islanders, even the Capitals had, look at January as a month.
Yeah,
if the Penguins or Capitals, even Sabres, had average.
Everyone had a
January
chance to
months.
run away with it, and nobody did.
But I do think Lane, though, deserves credit. You look at this team and this team in general, right? They're probably a borderline playoff team with everyone healthy just because of the way they played. Yes, he made rookie mistakes as a head coach, but to his credit, he sat Josh Bailey, which Trotz did a little bit last year. But to his credit, Lane did not care about the loyalty aspect. I mean, he sat Bailey before his 1,000th game. He delayed a home 1,000th game against the Rangers.
Yeah, that's pretty cold.
I mean, we know Bailey had a great 1,000th game in Carolina. That goal was beyond filthy.
Yeah.
But he sat him. He's taking guys out of the rotation. Taking Bolduc out. Holmstrom he's taken out. When players weren't playing well, they were taken out of the rotation. Yes, again, he's made his mistakes, but he rallied this group. Again, this group could have folded with Barzal. And yes, it's about the leadership in the room as well. But all the players talk about how Lane's emotions carry them. And we don't see it. But just because we don't see it, the same way we don't say, like, oh, how could so-and-so be a captain? Like, we're not in the room. Lane is probably exploding on these guys and then comes out and gives us the face because that's what he does. But they all spoke about the emotion and how he helped them carry and go through that. So I think Lane definitely deserves more credit than anyone is willing to give him.
I think he deserves credit for getting them to the dance with the adversity that they faced over the course of the season. But when it comes to Jack Adams votes...
Oh, he has no shot.
No. Well, no, forget about we know that. But, I don't even know if the guy gets any votes. I mean, you look at Ruff, you look at Montgomery, and there's plenty of other teams, I think, that you can take a look at, and are, the coaches of those teams are much more deserving. So, listen, and Trotty, I correct me I almost feel like you might have been a guy saying fire Lane mid-season during the chat. Maybe you weren't one of those guys, but I know there was a lot of that going on in the chat, so it's nice to see, it take a positive turn. But either way, it was up and down for him. He ultimately got them into the playoffs. He deserves credit, but I'm gonna pump the brakes short of any Coach of the Year votes. Jay.
All right, let's go. We have a programming question. What's the plan for the Hockey Night in New York podcast schedule as the series goes?
That's a fair question. Well, right now it's going to go on as expected, one each weekend, but
they do play Sunday at 1.
Right, so we might do a post game after that night. We're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to do some behind closed doors meetings. I wouldn't mind getting a viewing party in there somewhere for a road game. Obviously, nothing's happening on Monday. If we can sneak something on Wednesday, it'll be a little. Look, it's very short notice. Maybe we'll try to do something for Game 5. But after that word salad, right now it's basically just going as scheduled. We'll get a show in next week. But if there's something we could sneak in to maybe cover mid-series, maybe, a little bonus episode to kind of cover the games as they go on, we'll try to do that. But right now, for sure, we're going to keep it at the weekly.
All right. Got a couple more. DTMR asks, should the Isles immediately take a penalty when they get a PP? Power play?
They should take the yards, I think.
Well, listen, I mean...
They scored a power play goal.
Well, not only that, but look at what the power play was like when Horvat and Barzal were there.
Oh,
and now they're both going to be there. It might be a different thing. I say you give the first power play a chance.
Yeah, and again, we talked about it. Numbers now mean nothing.
Sure.
If the power play, it's all about, for any stat now, it's all about in the moment getting it done. So let's see what happens. Again, the power play has been abysmal all year. It's the reason why they're had to fight for their lives here. It's probably the biggest reason. I think they have, again, third worst power play and you made the playoffs. Just imagine them coming through at 5 or 6% higher.
Right.
Maybe they're fighting for the third seed, or maybe they're just safer. It wouldn't have come down to game 82. But again, it's the playoffs. It's Barzal back. Horvat, I was seeing a practice yesterday and today. Barzal to Horvat in the bumper, getting shots on goal. So I think, again, it doesn't matter if the power play goes 1 for 5, but that 1 is the game winner, or the tying goal, or the go-ahead goal,
And
it doesn't matter.
Carolina is one of the most disciplined teams in the league, so I wouldn't expect too many power plays to begin with, but let's give it a shot now that it's at full power. No pun intended.
All right, you want one more?
Please.
Sure. All right, let's go. Trottier, any word on when Romanov may come back?
So not game 1. We asked Lynn if he's going to travel. They're not sure. We don't know. We don't know what his injury is. I guess it's a positive that he is skating, but again, it is an upper body injury, so he could skate the same way Clutterbuck skated during his upper body. I think him being out is a real tough blow. We talked about the young. Yes, he's young as well. He does have experience, though. He didn't play much, but he was on that Montreal Canadiens team that did go to the Cup final. Again, he didn't play a lot, but he did play. He has that experience. And again, physicality. This is a guy that could spark a major win just with his body and the booming hits that he lays. But we don't know now. We will update you. Once I know, everybody knows. Like, we'll get it out there. I'm not going to hide anything. But for right now, he's not playing game one, and that's all we know.
But he was considered day-to-day, right?
He's
so
day-to-day.
there is hope that he can get in there at some point during the series.
And I'm not going to be shocked if he played in game one, because why would Lane tipped the hand on Barzal, because I think they needed to get Barzal practicing and have him back. But I wouldn't be shocked if Romanov's warming up on Monday
Another
night.
day off tomorrow, at least, not a game, because they are practicing tomorrow. Yeah,
They're practicing tomorrow morning,
yeah.
Yep.
So listen, maybe if we see him on the ice tomorrow, it gives a little more hope, but that doesn't even necessarily tell the story either. He could literally be day-to-day up until warm-ups, right?
Yeah, that's
and
what
then
I'm
all of
saying.
a sudden he's out there. So hopefully at the very least we see him in the series, even if we don't see him to start. But
I want to see this guy in the playoffs again, because his dynamic changed from struggling in the first half, again, getting used to systems, different line mates, to how he came on when they really needed him to was pretty good, where you're relying on him now. Him being out is a loss, where maybe early in the year was like, maybe he's not safe. Maybe he's going to play limited minutes, and now he's vital.
Yeah, well, look, it's a twofold benefit, because you get him back, you get his physical play that's going to be a lot of fun and hopefully beneficial to watch in the playoffs. And then it's also, no disrespect, but it's also taking out Sam Bolduc, who probably isn't really ready for full-time hockey in the playoffs.
Yeah, not a knock on him at all. It's just
Right.
experience.
Right.
We actually got one more question that just came in.
Let's hear
Okay, what do you got?
All right, let's go. Black Quinn asks, let's see, long-time lurker, first-time chatter here.
All right,
know
welcome.
if this was asked.
A little serial killer there, but yeah.
Here we go. As tense as the Isles season end was, how satisfying was it to watch the Lens absolutely crap themselves their last 3 games? Oh, the Pens. Yeah.
Well, I think it's crazy, because that's how, of course, the season would end. Once they lost to the Islanders, lost to the Capitals, it was okay. Pittsburgh is playing 2 teams trying to get the first overall pick. 2 teams that are literally trying. I don't know. Again, I believe truly that players don't tank and coaches don't tank. GMs do. Every player on those teams are playing for jobs next year. But the fact that Chicago was able to win, and not only that, Columbus beat Pittsburgh, right? Their last game. It was fan appreciation night. So when they lost, all the Penguins had to line up and come back on the ice, do the jersey off the back.
How awful is that?
I remember the Islanders did it, I don't know, I remember many years ago it was, and they had lost the season finale. They didn't make the playoffs. If I was a player, I would be so miserable. Again, you're doing it for the fans. They support you all year. You got to give them back. But for the Penguins to line up after, 16 of 17 years they made, first time in 17 years they missed? 16. These guys, first off, on a bad Jari goal, which is becoming a normal sentence.
Yes,
it's more consistent than his glove hand, that sentence. But
Wow.
to have to stand up I mean, again, if you hate the Penguins, I'm not saying I don't hate the Penguins, but if you hate the Penguins, watching that must have been like winning a Stanley Cup.
Do you think they still lose that game if they weren't already out of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, if they had been still in it, maybe they win that
I don't know.
game.
Yeah, the Penguins had to beat Chicago, and they didn't do that. And
Well.
I think this is good for the Penguins. Obviously, they just fired everybody.
Yeah, they
which
cleaned
should
house.
have happened they should have happened like 3 or 4 years ago. But I digress.
And then there was a piece that came out in The Athletic just trashing Hextall, saying the guy was soft. He didn't have the backbone to make the moves.
I know who wrote that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love anything he really did. First off, he signed Malkin and Letang are still here for a while. Again, it's the fact that someone made a comment I saw on Twitter, I just want to get to it quickly, is the Penguins lost 2 more games than the Islanders, and they fired everyone. What about the Islanders? That's true. Malkin, Crosby, and Letang all played every game, essentially, except Letang, who had the stroke again, which God bless him. Hopefully, he's up for the Masterton. I think he deserves it, same as Carlson. But those big 3 were pretty much there leading the pack. And that comes down to, it was like an Edmonton-esque thing. You have so much star talent, and you just needed those little pieces around him. And you didn't go out and do that and get that. And again, maybe it was a little too late at the deadline. Who knows? But Jari...
They made some questionable
But Jari
moves at
even
the deadline.
Jari said it was either sit out this season or play hurt. And he played hurt, and they missed the playoffs. If I'm a fan of the Penguins, and you had a healthy DeSmith, it could have gone out and gotten a Varlamov or somebody like that, and you played an injured Jari who wasn't good. Yeah, I'd be pissed off, and that's on management. You listen, if he was hurt and he couldn't play up to his abilities, don't play him. Again, give your
Listen,
team a chance, but
just speaking from my fan point of view, I'm not really upset about the fate of the Pittsburgh Penguins this year, and I'm finally
the Capitals probably.
I'm finally happy to see a changing of the guard in the Metro Division. The Caps and the Pens out, and you're seeing some other teams take over right now. The Islanders really aren't at the top of that. You're looking at Carolina,
I'm
the Devils,
so excited
and Rangers,
about the Sabres.
but Buffalo, Buffalo's going to come around the Atlantic too, but it's cool to see that change because look, those guys have been running the show for so long.
And credit to them.
Of course,
they've done it consistently.
Of course,
every year.
But it's cyclical, right? You have Chicago out west, and you have these teams now, and now you have some other up and coming teams, and the Islanders are in an interesting spot. We spend another 30 minutes that we're not going to do right now on it, but they're in the playoffs. It's going to be a great series against the Canes. Just before we sign off here, what's your prediction?
That's so funny. We must have good chemistry because I was going to ask you the same exact thing.
Well, I beat you to it, buddy.
I do think the Islanders win this one. I think it's going to go 7. I really just think it's going to be a grind the whole time. If not 7, maybe 6. But I do think the Islanders just find a way, and I think they're going to win those key games. Obviously, they don't have home ice advantage, but those games at UBS is Arena's first playoff at all.
Yeah.
That place is going to be packed and loud, and it's going to be so difficult for Carolina. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think as long as the Isles D can hold serve and maybe getting Romanov back, I think that's going to be the huge thing. I think that's what we're gonna look back on in this series, and whether or not the Islanders get through is whether the D and Sorokin can hold up against whatever attack that the Carolina Hurricanes bring. But to that end, I think the Isles do get the upset, and I think they're going to do it in 6.
We talked about Sorokin. Sorokin's not only going to have to steal games, he's probably going to have to steal the series. And again, he's played well in Carolina. I think. We saw that glove save, the 8th game of the season, where he made that ridiculous windmill glove save in the 2-1 loss the other day. He stopped 33 or 35. Again, it's going to come down to Sorokin because he is the Islanders' X factor for sure.
No question about it. So, folks, we're going to wrap it up here. Jay, you can play your favorite song. We can get the hell on out of here. So, I want to thank you all for tuning in to twitch.tv/HockeyNightNY and your favorite podcast providers. Also want to send a big thanks out to Mike Morreale over at NHL.com for hanging out with us, giving us a great spot. And, of course, a huge thanks to our great sponsors, starting with Blue Line Deli and Bagels, located at 719 West Jericho Turnpike in Huntington. Check them out at BlueLineDeli.com. Also, a big thanks to Lost Farmer Brewing Company, located at 63A 2nd Street in Mineola. Check them out at LostFarmerBrewing.com. And a big thanks to Main Street Board Game Cafe, located at 307 Main Street in Huntington Village. And a very special thanks once again to Suitor Sweet Treats, Meg and Michelle. Thank you so much for the wonderful cookies. And hey, maybe the Islanders will be hoisting this in a couple of weeks. We'll see what happens. Maybe come June time, right? Great job. Little custom Stanley Cup there. And listen, thanks to you guys as always for tuning in. Remember, you please rate, review, and subscribe. Spread the word. Tell your friends. Stefen, where can we follow you and find your great content?
So busy chewing now. I apologize.
Do your best, man. It's fine.
STEFEN_ROSNER on Twitter and The Hockey News.
The Hockey News. You can follow myself at Shawnee Hockey. You can follow the show at Hockey Night NY on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the TikTok. It's playoff time, baby. Let's see what happens. Game 1 is on Monday. Thanks for tuning in here. We'll see you next time.